Well, I think it's a great experience for our players, to go back to Atlanta and play in the, Chick-fil-A kickoff games. We've enjoyed, these opportunities through the years and playing some great teams and a great sort of competitive venue and atmosphere. So I know our players are certainly looking forward to, doing this again. I mean, I think the question you always have when you start the season is, who are we as a team? Every team has an opportunity to create an identity with the energy, enthusiasm, sense of purpose that they have and the togetherness that they play with. And, right now, because of whatever you want to say about preseason rankings, ratings, whatever, I mean, nobody's really sold on anybody at this point. Everybody has a new opportunity, and I think everybody's looking to try to create a winning rhythm, and how they can execute on every unit that they have, whether it's offense, defense, special teams, and you want to try to control the rhythm of the game by how you compete in the game, and that's certainly, something that we've always tried to do here at Alabama, and certainly a challenge for this team. But mindset, preparation, determination to create an identity are probably, the real keys, for this team. So, West Virginia has, I think, a really good team coming back. Dana has done a really good job there, especially when it comes to, how they've been able to play offense, up-tempo, fast, sort of, Texas A&M, Oklahoma State style, try to control the rhythm of the game by the speed that they play at. They return, 7, 8 starters on both sides of the ball, and they're specialists. So, when Clint Trickett played quarterback last year, I think that he did a really good job for them. He was able to throw for over 250 yards in several games, and that they were able to run the ball effectively on most teams that they played against. So there's a lot of challenges with the motions and run, pass, screens, attack the perimeter in a lot of different ways. Defensively, they have a new defensive coordinator. They're going back to the 3-3 stack, which they've had success with in the past, and they have 8 starters back on defense. So I thought watching them in the spring, they were much improved on the defensive side of the ball, and they did a good job with their punting game last year, and have good team speed, which is a really good start in terms of having good special teams. So we think this is going to be a very, very challenging game for us, as a team. We certainly have a lot of respect for what these guys were able to do. I mean, they scored a lot of points last year in games that they weren't successful at winning, but they certainly were successful in being able to move the ball and score points on people. And, we're going to have to play well on both sides of the ball. You got to tackle well in space. When you play these kinds of teams, you really got to play the edges of your defense well. You got to control the line of scrimmage in the run game, affect the quarterback. Turnovers are always a big factor in the game, and I think for us offensively, we're going to have to, be able to block this stacked defense that they play, and be able to control the line of scrimmage, run the ball, and control the rhythm of the game with the way we play offense. And certainly, turnovers are always a factor in, these kinds of games. From an injury standpoint, we really don't have any new injuries to report. Everybody is practicing, except Kirk Freitag is the only guy that would not practice today because of an injured toe. So everyone else is able and ready to go. The quarterback situation, we're going to continue to, rep both guys. We feel like both guys have been doing a very, very good job. Obviously, somebody has to start the game, and we'll make that decision probably at some point in time this week. And but I think both guys are doing a good job right now, and we're going to continue to try to develop both of those players at this point.
Just wondering, with the two quarterbacks, how have you seen them kind of handle the mental aspect of maybe the pressure of the situation and avoid pressing, I guess, in practice?
Well, I think both guys have done a really good job, and I think that, Blake has a lot more familiarity with the system having been here longer, I think he's more comfortable in, doing the things that we do, and, has done a really good job. I mean, has played really, really well in this fall camp, has played well in the scrimmages. The team has had a good rhythm, when he's in there at quarterback. Jacob is obviously, the newer guy of the two who doesn't have the same knowledge and experience, and I think, we're just trying to get him more and more familiar so that he can play with the rhythm that we need to play with offensively. And I just think it's just about confidence, and there's kind of an interesting thing. We say players play without confidence, but to think that a guy can play with confidence when he doesn't yet have knowledge is almost like stupid, to think that. All right, I mean, so a player has to be able to develop knowledge and understanding of what he's supposed to do for him to really have confidence in doing it. I think young players struggle with this, and somebody in a quarterback position who is in a new system, terminology and all that, that's got to be a bit of a factor.
Will all players be available and make the trip to Atlanta this week?
As far as I know, I mean, I don't have anybody that's not going to be available, not right now. I mean, that doesn't mean they're going to go just because they're available to go, I mean, I think I'm going to go for sure. Miss Terry's going for sure. We got lots of people from West Virginia coming, man. Lots of people.
The last time there were two quarterbacks with an or situation going into an opener, you guys traded off between series, 2 series on, 2 series off. Is it going to be similar to that this year, or is it going to be some kind of a different format?
Well, we actually played the guys by quarters. It wasn't 2 series on and 2 series off. We don't have any plans to do that at this point in this game, but that doesn't mean that whatever pitcher starts the game is necessarily going to pitch 9 innings. I mean, that's. I mean, when Joe Girardi tells Tanaka he's starting in the game, he's not telling him he's going to pitch 9 innings. Does he tell him that, or does he just pitch until he doesn't pitch well anymore? I don't know.
I was just curious, when you were growing up in West Virginia, were you a West Virginia fan, or do you remember like watching them or anything like that on TV?
That was the biggest thing in going when I was a kid, man, to go to Mountaineer Field to watch West Virginia play. That was like the highlight of, my year. I mean, I still have great memories of home. I have great memories of the people and the relationships that I have at home, and I've always kind of been a Mountaineer fan. I remember as a kid, sitting in the old Mountaineer Field House, and I used to sit in the upper deck with my feet hanging over the deck, looking between the rails, watching Jerry West, play. I remember that. I probably was only 7, 8, 9 years old or something, but I remember that. I remember listening to my little brown transistor radio, when Darrell Emhoff hit a jump shot to end the game in 1960, I think it was, to win 71-70 in a national championship game when Jerry West played. You don't forget stuff like that. I mean, now I'm Alabama's coach, so I'm an Alabama fan. So we don't really have to be concerned about any of that. We want to do what's best for our team and the relationships that we have here, but we also respect their traditions and the relationships that we've developed through the years, in West Virginia.
Nick, how do you feel about your depth defensively, rotational depth, going into a game like this with their pace of play?
Well, I think that up front, defensive line-wise, we're a lot better than what we were last year. I think we have more guys that have more experience, that are more ready to play. I think we're a little more athletic, up front. You know, we're a little thin at linebacker. That's not a place that you like to sort of rotate people, but we've thought about, you know, doing that a little bit in these kinds of games. And I feel like we have more experience in the secondary than we had a year ago at this time. Hopefully, you know, we'll be able to communicate and play well on the perimeter, which, you know, these kind of teams really challenge the perimeter of your defense. You know, whether it's screens, bubble passes, however they get to the rocket sweeps. So this is going to be a real challenge for that group as well.
Coach, based on the competition between Coker and Sims, it seems as if both will play. So I'm just going to ask, will both play Saturday?
That decision has not been made yet. So, I mean, I've pretty much said everything I can say about that.
Go up front here, Ken.
I wanted to ask you about Bradley and Cyrus. You know, we've talked that both guys started on offense. Is that an easier transition to make? And what in their skill sets and in their mindsets did you see that you thought they could make that transition?
Well, first of all, we really recruited both guys, you know, to play corner. But the way we've always done it with players is if a player has a desire to try to play something, then we always allow him to play that. And in their case, you know, both guys had a tremendous amount of success in high school playing offense, which if I was a high school coach and I had fast, skilled guys like that, I would try to give them the ball too. All right, so they both had an opportunity to play offense, but and it's taken a year for those guys to develop, I think, you know, as defensive players, to gain the, you know, knowledge and confidence that we talked about before to be able to play effectively. And those guys have both had, you know, really good camps. You know, Maurice Smith is also a guy that was a freshman last year. Eddie Jackson was a freshman last year. You know, so those guys are all a little better. Then we have two freshmen this year, Marlon and Tony Brown, who have gotten a lot of reps, who are in the developmental stages of being able to contribute at some point in time as well. So Cyrus has really had a good, you know, camp and really done really well, and hopefully that'll carry over in the game.
Could you talk a little bit about the how the running backs have looked? You've obviously got a good group there of running backs, and kind of is that a little bit of
Are
a
you talking about our guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
How they've looked in fall camp and just kind of how you divvy up those carries. And
well, you know, those guys have all done a really, really good job, and they've all had really good camps. And Derrick Henry and you know, TJ probably are more the sort of inside downhill do it all kind of runners, and you know, Kenyon Drake, because of his great speed, can do those things, but is also a really good receiver as well as perimeter runner. And you know, I think that all three of those guys are guys that we definitely want involved in the game, that have playmaking ability, and we're very confident that all three of them can make a significant contribution to our team some kind of way, you know, this year.
Nick, I guess if someone wanted to take the glass half empty approach, they could look at the quarterback situation and say, well, neither guy's established himself as the #1 guy. But has it been your past experience that when guys are competing hard for a position, that they both become better football players? And is this the case here?
Well, and I was going to look at the glass half full on that one, because you could say that both guys are playing really, really well, and it's hard to choose. All right, so you could really, you know, say that both those things are, you know, factors. But I do think competition is something that helps all players at any position. I think the one unique thing about the quarterback is you definitely like to get the rest of the offensive team sort of in sync with the guy that plays that position. All right, and that's so. To me, there's a big upside that two guys are competing, and we feel both doing well. But then the other side of that is, you know, the continuity of what you're trying to create with the rest of your team is something that you'd like to have a guy that sort of steps forward and takes the leadership role and game management part of it that makes all the other players on offense feel comfortable in what they're expected to do.
Nick, when you have a new offensive coordinator come in, do you typically get a little more involved in play-to-play discussion, decision-making early in his tenure, or does it stay pretty consistent?
No, I think that what I've always tried to do with the offensive side of it is, you know, we've tried to make some changes systematically that would help us improve, you know, maybe some of the multiples that we present offensively in terms of what the defense has to defend. Sort of putting a little asterisk by that to say, but it's got to fit in with what the players can do. All right, so especially with new quarterbacks, we don't want to overload what they have to do in terms of their ability to execute, especially right now at this point in the season. But, you know, my thing has always been that as a play caller, you have to let the guy have the rhythm of what he's trying to do. So I have never really ever really made a lot of, I'd rather make my suggestions between the series, you know, in other words, not while we have the ball, and maybe say, look, they're doing a lot of this. We thought that they did that, we'd do this. Let's make sure we get back to that. You know, more of that type of thing than while we're going on a series, say, you know, do this or do that. Or I might say, you know, the next time we get the ball in a good field position, let's take a shot on these guys. You know, they're really playing us close outside. Or, you know, I might make those kinds of recommendations rather than try to get in the way of the signal caller while he's trying to call the game and have a rhythm of how he calls the game. So I know that's putting a lot of trust in another person, but that's been the most effective way for me through the years as a head coach, because I think you can really mess a guy up if you're always questioning what he does, or why did we call that, or, you know, you sure that's what we want to do on third down? I mean, then the guy's like, you know, I mean, it's just like players. You know, I get on those corners when they get the ball thrown over their head in practice, but I'm over there rubbing their neck in the game so they don't throw it over their head again. So when the game comes, man, you got to go with what you got and try to get them to do it the best they can. So, you know, and I think it's the same thing with the play callers, signal callers. Have to be confident. I think all those things are planned prior to. Okay, we watch the practice film every day. This is what we want to do. Here's the first so many plays that we're going to run off the script. Here's the reason why. So we're all committed to it, and we're all trying to do it, and we all try to support each other in it.
I know you praised Landon Collins in the past for his abilities on special teams, but I'm just curious, how much have you seen him grow as a leader over the years?
Well, he's been probably, you know, a key guy in a leadership role. You know, defensively, you know, for this team, in terms of how he's embraced that role and done a really good job. I mean, the guy practices hard every day, works hard every day. Team's important to him. I think the other players on the team are important to him, and he has set a great example and certainly showed that he cares about the people around him and how he can affect them. And I think it's been very, very good. How much we're going to be able to play him on special teams, you know, this year because of his role on defense. Probably try to minimize that to some degree. He'll still play on a couple teams, but he is a fantastic special teams player.
I have two. First, on defense, with Ashawn at nose tackle, is that a situation where he'll be both at times, and is that reflective of the opponent, somebody who plays faster?
Well, you know, that's why it's so hard to put a depth chart up. You know, really with the defensive line situation that we have, if we were playing against a team that was in regular, all right, we would play Ashawn at 5 technique and Ivory at nose because they're the best guys to, you know, stop the run. In nickel situations, we trying to get more athletic when we play nickel So now, whether it's Jaron Reed or Ashawn, they kind of go in and play nose and 3 technique, you know, with some of our other guys, whether it's Jonathan Allen or Dalvin Tomlinson or whatever, so that we're a little bit more athletic in the pass rush part of it. We got a little more speed on the field. Guys can chase down screens better, all those types of things. And then we got enough edge guys now, you know, with Petway and, you know, Dixon and Denzel Duvall and even Rashawn Evans has shown a lot. Tim Williams, whenever we get him back in the fold. So we have a lot more versatility to play guys at different positions. So Ashawn's not really playing those in regular. Now, I don't know how to write all this on a depth chart. That's why I hate to give you a depth chart, but because you guys literally take it like it is, which I understand. I'm not saying that in a bad way, but you use players differently in circumstances in a game.
And then on offense, you have a guy in his first college game starting at left tackle. Have you had that situation before? And
well,
what are your thoughts on
not that I can remember. Not that I can remember. But, you know, Dominic Jackson is also playing that position. We think he can be a really good player. I mean, he missed 2 weeks with a sprained ankle, which sort of limited the competition. But now he's back in practice, and you know, Leon's back in practice, so you know that helps us depth-wise and as to who might be the starters at those positions somewhere down the road. And I know all those guys want to play, but it's a long season, but at least we can evaluate how the younger players are doing with less experience and have somebody who maybe can get in there and play in their place that can be an effective player.
Last one, Mark. I wanted to ask about Reuben Foster. I know he had an issue with a stinger back in the spring. Has he improved on that? And also, what type of role will he have this year?
Well, you know, Reuben has really had a much better fall camp. And, you know, Reuben has learned, you know, how to play. Reuben's always been a really good playmaker. You know, some guys just, you know, have habits that are not good in terms of, you know, their health and safety. And, you know, Reuben was one of these guys that loved to duck his head when he tackled, which I'm not saying he wasn't an effective tackler, but that's what created a lot of problems with his stingers. And, you know, we've had to sort of teach him how to take on blockers, how to tackle, so that he is not doing that. Now, he's been able to stay healthier, and he's been able to make it through scrimmages, and he has not had the same issues. And I think that's important because I think he can be a player who can contribute a lot, you know, to this team this year, especially with the depth situation that we have at inside backer.